White House Bureau Chief for Arise TV, James Blue, is joining me. What a week for President Obama. First of all, his daughter went to a prom and had high heels on.
Well, you know, it's a coming of age, and it happens to all of us.
It's about to happen to you.
Can you imagine showing up at the White House saying, "Is she ready?"
Right. And that's the dad and the mom you got to meet. That would be tough. Well, it was an important week for the president last week and this week. Of course, he had to accept the resignation of Veterans Affairs Secretary Shinseki, and all that is happening with the preliminary report out of the Phoenix VA medical facility. The president had a lot going on.
He did, and what was really clear is that he reluctantly and accepted the resignation, and really, I think there is a sincere friendship between him and the former VA secretary. But it was just very clear that the sort of level of malfeasance and misdoing across the VA, not isolated at the Phoenix location, was such that heads needed to roll. He also said, and I think this is accurate, that he thought the General Shinseki would be an impediment to actually moving things forward. And so he resisted until the point when he really felt that to move forward, Shinseki had to go.
Well, what's interesting is Shinseki thought the problem was just in Phoenix until the Inspector General's report said, no, and he admits it's systemic now and we do need new leadership. And I do want to emphasize, this is not Shinseki's fault. This is happening. This has been happening for a while.
It has been happening for a while. However, I'm going to slightly disagree with you.
Okay.
It may not be his fault, but he's certainly responsible.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with that.
Absolutely responsible. And I think what has really happened, and if you speak to veterans, there's a whole sort of new class of veteran coming into the system from the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. They are younger, they have survived many of the battlefield injuries that they sustained. Years ago, they probably would have died in theater. And so the VA is really pressed to deliver services. There are more women who are needing services. And I think the real sort of high point is that once they get in, they all exclaim, the services are great.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just getting through the door and waiting for an appointment has proven very, very difficult, and in this case, costing Shinseki his job.
Yeah. Let's talk about another job that is no longer there, and that's Jay Carney. Did you expect that? I mean,
it was completely unexpected. You know, generally, the president had already been in the briefing room, and we're wondering, why is he coming again? And to announce that Jay Carney has decided to resign. And I think there is nothing more than his need to create an income in order to support his family. I had the opportunity to produce his wife on one or two occasions when I worked at ABC. Really nice lady, yes. Claire Shipman. They have 2 kids of school age, and the reality is it's expensive to keep your kids in schools in the Washington area.
And if I'm a kid beat up every day, like he gets beat up, I may as well make some money so I can keep my kids in school.
And I don't think it should in any way reflect displeasure from the president or his unhappiness with the role. I just think it's sort of time. And I think, what will be very clear, because the way the president spoke of their friendship, he will be on the speed dial offering advice while being paid by others.
And we think he'll probably segue into a K Street scenario?
I don't think he'll become a lobbyist, because I think there are very specific rules about trying to lobby. And as journalists, I don't think we necessarily have those lobbying skills.
Right.
I think he will go to work for a public affairs firm, and I know he's spoken to a number of people. And it's possible that he might land a job with a, my suspicion, and again, I probably shouldn't say this on the record, but
of course you should.
I suspect he'll go to a large internet company. That's my suspicion.
Oh, any in particular? Oh, you're going to keep that to yourself. Oh, very good. Well done.
I could be wrong.
No, I don't think so. Who do you think should be his replacement? Do you have any idea who it might be?
I don't. Well, they've named his replacement, Josh Earnest.
I thought he was just their interim.
No, he will be the replacement. And Josh is a loyal guy. Josh started out with Senator Obama back in 2007 in Iowa, and he was the communications director for the Obama campaign, many years ago. He is a very nice, and his name Earnest. He's an earnest guy from the Midwest, and I think he and Obama, because of Obama's background, have a real simpatico as well.
All right, I was hoping for a woman in the mix this time, but I guess that'll have to wait for another presidency. The president leaving tonight, when?
He's leaving this evening, headed to Europe, and this is a really important trip given all of the tensions that have happened overseas. He arrives in Poland first thing in the morning and will give a speech really outlining his view of American foreign policy moving forward. He is going to meet the newly elected president of the Ukraine. He's going to have bilateral meetings with the leader of Poland, of course. And it really is a chance to express support for our European allies.
Now, he did give a speech, was it last week, where he outlined his foreign policy? Is it his foreign policy doctrine or his new...
Basically, and it is summed up in the TV-friendly way, don't do stupid stuff.
Well, you know what? Sometimes we do need it that simple.
and basically, he, and there have been some criticisms of the speech. He basically tried to help us understand the largest threat facing the U.S. internationally. And in President Obama's mind, it is counterterrorism, that stopping counterterrorism should become sort of the focus of U.S. foreign policy. And in order to do that, he believes you don't need as muscular a military, that we can work with our partners on the ground. So instead of going into Syria, into Nigeria, into Chad, we can work with partners there by training them, by equipping them, and sending them in. There's a lot of disagreement as to whether that is an adequate U.S. foreign policy. Is this along
partisan lines?
It's not necessarily along partisan line. This is more disagreement among people who are sort of foreign policy thinkers. I was with some people last week because what he hasn't done, and I think this is a criticism of his overall foreign policy, is that he hasn't really articulated any connective tissue between what happens in Syria, what happens in Ukraine, what we're doing in Libya, what we're trying to do in Chad and the Central African Republic. There are a lot of U.S. action, but there's very little sort of knitting it together. The hope was that this speech at West Point would do some of that. There's further hope that perhaps he'll get it done in Europe when he gives his speech in Poland. But overall, the criticism of President Obama's foreign policy is that it has sort of lacked big ideas. Certainly getting us out of the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq were the two main ideas, and he did lay out a plan to do just that. We will have no troops in Afghanistan by the end of 2016. That is significant. But having said that, now that you have pulled troops back and you are retrenching, there needs to be some sense amongst the foreign policy community of sort of what America is going to stand for. And our European allies are very nervous, quite honestly. They're nervous that the U.S. is sort of signaling a retreat, and a retreat by the U.S. from Europe is really dangerous because the United States has guaranteed security and stability in Europe, since the end of World War II.
So the president needs to march over to Europe and to assuage the concerns of European leaders.
Absolutely. That's one of the things he has to do. And part of that, and I think what he's going to say is, you have to step up to the plate. Because the U.S. security guarantee in Europe really came out of U.S. taxpayers' pockets. And I think what he is going to have to say is that Europe, if you want these guarantees, you have to share the financial burden, which up to this point they have not done.
James Blue, Washington Bureau Chief with Arise TV. Are you going to be traveling with the president?
Not this time. I'm working on a project here that keeps me home.
All right. All right. Well, we'll see you next time then.
I
And
hope
thank you
so.
so much for the update.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be right back.